Alright, so you've got me, Scrimshire, back again to do a little walkthrough, another production walkthrough. And this one was off a request. Jamal Ahmed, thank you for asking for something. Feedback's all been great and I do appreciate it. And yeah, in the comments there was a few people talking about me doing some of my own stuff, not the remixes and that, but maybe re-edits and that. And Tanto Tiempo came up, so let's do it. So this was originally called New Piano Bouncy Fuck What the Fuck, and I think there's quite a story behind that probably. This was done on the 17th of December, started on the 17th of December 2019. Listeners came out in July 2019, and then there were gigs to do, so I have to dig out the old songs and learn them basically, because I'm writing constantly, and I'll be writing and filing things away and then moving on, and you know, it may be just a couple of days actually at a keyboard, or even if that, a few hours at a keyboard playing before, and then I won't go back to that thing again until I have to learn to play it live. But going back to play it live is really helpful, not least because it makes me practice. I'm not a great keyboard player or guitarist or anything really, you know, I play to be able to write. But when I practice, I get better, and it always leads to lots of writing because I'm like, oh my god, I can do this now. So I realised I'd done this in December. I would have written most of Believers before that, it seems, because actually looking at this later on in the track, the original drum samples that I was using was from a drum session that we did for Believers for the track Echoes, which became Love Is Loving with Omar and Faye Houston and Xana. And yeah, so I remember now that I'd actually gone to Chris Boots' studio in person, together in a room, and we had recorded the drums for Believers. And what must have happened is I'd come back and started putting that album together and realised that there was something out of balance with it. Again, I write a lot, so sometimes what I need to do is actually just pull things out and put them elsewhere and go, that's not going to work this time. But that leaves gaps, and that leaves me to need to fill in things. And I think that's where I was like, new piano, fuck, what the fuck, here we go again, start writing. But yeah, you know, I wanted to take it in a certain direction. I wanted to fill a particular gap in the album. I wanted to get some sort of sense of consistency within things. And the other thing I wanted to do was, you know, I'd get my way around the piano a little bit, and I was enjoying that. And I really wanted to draw a line really between where I've been practicing Through You with Georgia Ann Muldrow, practicing that piano part at the end that really moves around. And I think you can hear some echoes of that in here. So let's go back to this piano part. It was played as one piece initially when I wrote it, but what I wanted to do was pull it to pieces for the performance, because I thought this was initially just going to be a piano song. Just some piano, just some rhythm elements, and that was it, and get out of there. So I started off with the bass part of the piano, and I recorded that independently, and then I recorded the first and third chords of the right hand part of the piano, that's here. And then separately recorded the second and fourth chords of the piano part, so that they layer up like this. But I can then take individual parts and pan one part over to the left and one part over to the right and have this kind of movement. I don't know why, I really like doing it. I've done it a bunch in the past. There's whole melodies that I've deconstructed into individual notes so I can play with them in how they appear. And then again, drawing a bit of a line to Through You, getting a nice bouncy riff in there. And I really thought this might be where it would be for a little while, but I couldn't resist adding on a little bass. Using this bass guitar I bought off my friend Paul, who played it in my band. The first two albums, the bands that we had for that, he was playing bass. But yeah, I bought that off him, and nothing too clever on the bass here, just what I can manage. I've always thought this track should actually be about 3-4 BPM faster, But I think it just comes down to what I'm capable of playing at the time, and that was all it was, 117 BPM. So there was that, and I could gradually, I was adding in things like the Juno as usual. And with the Juno, a little bit of movement added through various of the tools on it, but also, like later on you can hear one of the things that I like to do, where I'm actually using the mod wheel to open up the filters in time with music. So there's those in there. And something else that we've discussed in the past, like in these production breakdowns, but I've not really shown you how they work. So where I talk about stacking up synthesizers chords with individual notes, this is an example of that. So it's nothing that clever. It's literally just arranging for strings, but arranging for a synthesizer, one piece at a time, essentially. So we've got the melody, the first melody that I would have used on here, and then lay a harmony on top of that. Then the third harmony, this is my favourite one. And then a fourth and fifth harmonies. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about layering up chords a note at a time on the synthesizer. The same as you do it for strings, but because I'm doing it one at a time, playing them in one at a time in each of those melodies, I can use the modulation wheel or the cut-offs or portamento to just make them slide a little bit differently, to give them each their own individual character. So those chords don't just be like these block chords moving around, they become these whole sort of swelling kind of things, and it's more movement in a thing that, you know, I'm playing all these instruments, so something that's constructed here inside the computer, these all add a little bit of human sort of nature to it. Then I got really stuck into it. I realised I didn't want to give up on the track as it was, and I just grabbed this conga and tambourine sample and popped that in there. And I wanted to create a different vibe, just have a switch of sound really for a little while, just to put it somewhere else with the bass guitar. Let's bring that bass in here. So I wanted to put my guitar on it as well. Again, when I talk about drawing the projects together, I think about the instrumentation and how that seems continuous through the record. So I was using my guitars a lot more on Believers. I knew that I would be. I was using my electric guitar and my acoustic guitar. This one, in fact, is the one I first bought to be able to play with Stack in her live band. And so that's layered up 2 times and spread out. And yeah, I mean that's kind of the basics. Then, like I say, I chopped in this set of drums from Echoes or Love Is Loving from that session. Just brought them in so I could mix them later on. What I did in the end was decide that actually I wanted Chris to replay them for me to give them a little bit more energy and make them unique and just bring what he brings to it, you know, more dynamics. So this was the track at one point, and I thought it was kind of there essentially. But it was not sitting right with me that I just had this percussion sample in there. I wanted that to be a bit more unique, and that's why I approached Magnus from Penya to get involved and bring their feeling to the track. Really, do something different to just having a sample chopped in there. So I sent this off to him and he began work on it, and I also sent this off to Chris and got him to do the drums. So what I'm going to do is jump into another project now and show you how it progressed from there. So then we have Magnus dropping in this percussion, and it's kind of like a proof to see if it was working at first, because he had flipped it in a different direction, which is perfect. You know, that's what you're after from a collaboration, is to go in different directions and be pushed outside of where you would normally go. So we can hear in here. Let's go to the drums. This is Magnus's work. triangle, some shakere, shakers, this amazing guy, Kabasa, and Chris had delivered his new drums to me by that point as well. And we knew that this was really working and that we needed that big Penya vocal sound and the trombone and Jim's additional ideas on the percussion as well. So from that point really it was just a case of grouping up things to make the mix a little easier, putting these synths back together into one single stem that I could use, tidying up the drums into a couple of usable stems and the percussion as well. And then I'm going to take you over into the final stage, which is where this was all mixed and when we finally brought in the trombone, the vocals and everything else that's there. So let's pop over to that now. So now we're in Luna, and like, I mean, this is much more traditional kind of mixing environment, which is why I like to use this. Plus it's got lots of great tools like tape sounds and stuff like that I really like. But I don't want to get too focused in the technical stuff. I'm happy to do it if people want it, but there's so much tech stuff on mixing out there. I don't know what I have to contribute towards that really. I thought these could focus a little bit more on how the songs come together and what makes them what they are. But you know, let me know. So I think the probably the most interesting thing about this is the vocal processing at this point. So let's have a look here. We've got going back to using the EQ automation again. So I'm able to move the bass. You can see it more in this project than with when I looked at the Milk one. Moving the top end out and the bass out. I'm moving the whole thing as a block back and forth, but using this extra peak to create kind of the interest as well. Just making more movement. I just like there being lots of movement happening throughout. So you've got that, and then that is also going through into this. And this is like an old tape echo machine. Look them up, they're mad and beautiful things. And again, I'm playing with this, so I'm playing the feedback. Feedback is for how long it continues to repeat after you've heard the sound, and echo rate is the speed of the echoes once it happens. And by moving the rate especially, you can create all these weird pitching effects like cars going by or something like that, you know, just getting those weird kind of effects. When you put that in the context of the entire track, it just creates lots of interesting drama and contours within the music, which I really love. We've also got great trombone from Viva, all her own effects on that, doing her own effects rig. So I just put it in a room to make it sit with the sound of the spaces that we created for the other tracks, and not much else beyond that. And then all we've got really is the whole thing. That's what makes up the track. We've got drums coming in here from Chris. Bass and guitar. All the percussion. Keys. And vocals. And that is Tanto Tiempo. So thanks for asking about these particular tracks. Again, I'm happy to look at all the kind of stuff that you're into, and leave me more comments. If there's particular things that you want me to focus on in these, then I'm happy to do that. Any questions that you want answered about how I've done certain stuff. Like I say, I'm avoiding some of the deeper tech stuff because there's plenty of amazing people doing stuff about that out there. But hopefully this just gives you an insight into how these songs came together and why. So yeah, thanks very much. Tanto Tiempo is out now on Albert's Favourites. Go get it.